Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
That's exactly how I imagine you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Hey, this is Becko. Welcome back to The Rider. And last week, it was such an interesting chat with Cav Templey from Eskimo Joe. He's got a brand new song out, Machines of Love and Grace, and the album of the same name will be out later on this year. He's working on it as we speak. And it was so interesting hearing him talk about new technology for bands and artists. And he's talking about how NFTs can actually help the industry. And Eskimo Joe have always been at the forefront of trying new things. They were doing crowdfunding for a brand new album. This is after they left a major record label and decided, you know what, we can go it alone and we can do it our way. So make sure you go back and listen to that anytime. Cav Templey on The Rider with Becko. Now, this week on the podcast, a band who've had 44 million YouTube views, 200 million Spotify streams. They've got the Song of the Year. They have created a karaoke classic we all grew up with on one of the biggest movie soundtracks ever. I'm talking about the band Litz.
Bands that crossed over into pop radio and had huge hits. And it took a couple of crossover bands like Lit to sort of at least bang on the door a little bit. And then even though they didn't let us in, then they let the next one in. Because they're like, all right, well, maybe there's something to this rock thing after all. Let's give these kids a chance. You know?
AJ and Jeremy talking about how they started off. And he's talking about bands like Blink-182. Then there was Good Charlotte's, Simple Plan. And they paved the way even for bands like POD. Lit are coming out with their 7th album, Tastes Like Gold, and we've got AJ and Jeremy dialing in from California. First up, let's get to AJ. I can see him on the screen in front of me. AJ, how you doing?
Man, it's going great. We're just been super, super busy with the new record, shooting videos and getting all that content, playing the TikTok game, and just staying busy, man. It feels good to be back in the queue for a new record.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is his 7th record. But this is a big change for you as well, because you left Orange County and your SoCal, scene, and you've gone to Nashville, which is, a big deal.
For a while, we were coming here before we moved here and just writing like crazy, getting into rooms with just some of the best writers in the world, and just kind of evolving, I feel, as writers, and just learning so much. And I think, we spent a lot of time writing, in keeping in mind that they were going to be for other artists, but some of the country stuff we were writing, and then went ahead and recorded it as Lit. But this new record is definitely, it's back to the old school. I mean, we literally took a moment to, take a deep breath, get with some peers that we, used to work with, some people that were just came up listening to Lit and these younger writers. And we took a different approach to kind of going back to like the early 2000s and writing this record. But yeah, Nashville is definitely the Mecca. It's become like the new, a little bit of New York, a little bit of LA, a little bit of what Nashville was. And it's becoming this, this hub for just creative people. And it's awesome to be here full time now.
Yeah, it's not just a country scene now. It is definitely just a music hub. You got all the great session musicians as well. You can just call in. You got the great studios, great history, and
it's just like, I think one of the biggest differences is one is like you're talking about. It's a community of a bunch of like-minded thinkers, a bunch of creative people that want to see each other succeed. So it's a little less every man for themselves kind of vibe coming up. And this is much more like, let's help each other out. Let's all be part of this community together, and huge networking opportunities left and right any day of the week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you're just tuning in right now to the podcast, AJ's on with us, and now Jeremy's here as well. Jeremy, g'day. How you going?
Hey, how are you, mate? Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Doing well. So, congrats on the new album. It's coming out in June. It's your 7th album. And you got some touring going on as well for you guys. So it must be nice to get back to getting back on the road, a bit of normality. But I guess everyone's a little bit nervous at the same time.
It's been great, man. It's been, we were just out in the UK and we've been doing a bunch of stuff around the States, and it doesn't. It's not weird for us. It feels normal again. You know, it is interesting depending on where you go. Different people are acting different ways, but I feel like we're getting closer. You know, we're getting there.
Big time.
And AJ, I mean, you've been playing together since '88, which I always think about the late '90s for you guys, because that was the sort of that era where rock and roll radio was number one. You came out of the grunge era into sort of a different part of rock, which you guys just embraced so much. But starting off in '88, you really had to earn your right before really cracking it, didn't you?
Yeah, man. We spent, we've all been together cracking away since high school. So it was, a lot of time just sort of honing in on our craft as writers and just being a band. And most importantly, in the beginning, we just wanted a good opportunity or good reason to be able to meet chicks. They thought we weren't athletes in high school. So we figured we start a band and the chicks would come. And so that was cool for a while. And then we just, we realized it was, we were really serious about it as what we wanted to do for a living. And it became as much fun as it was, it also became a business where we really were strategic about how we built our fan base and how we marketed our band. And it took about 10 years before we got our first independent record deal. And that was sort of another beginning. And then, it's like all these decades of time you put in to get to this new achievement, and then it stretches another 10 years. It's just this crazy long process where it can be, and it's just got to stick in there.
What time is it over there?
It's 10 a.m. It's after 10. So you guys are kicking back now with a glass of wine by the look of it.
I was going to say, you're probably having coffee and I'm sitting here looking like an alcoholic.
Hey, look, if I wasn't actually at work, I probably would be smashing a wine right now as well. But you're right. It's coffee time for me.
Spirit.
And I'm going to ask you about what you have on your rider a little bit later on, but it's after 7 where you are now. I know that, but you guys, part of the Orange County music scene, and straight away I think of bands like No Doubt from that era, and then Gwen Stefani obviously after that as well, and some incredible music venues down there. I sort of remember I visited Irvine Meadows many times before that got pulled down, which is a shame. But what was that scene like? Because so many great bands came out of that era and went worldwide.
A lot of great bands came from Orange County, but there wasn't much of an Orange County music scene, so to speak. A lot of those bands, like No Doubt and Offspring and Sugar Ray and Sublime, there's so many of them. But we met a lot of those people for the first time, like at a big festival or the first night of a big tour. Because it's such a spread out county, to drive from one end of Orange County to the other, it could take you 2 hours sometimes. And so there wasn't like this little strip, like the Sunset Strip in Hollywood used to be back in the 80s, where every band kind of knew each other and played the same places and everybody kind of blew up at the same time. There was a lot of years between like Offspring Smash and Tragic Kingdom, and then A Place in the Sun, and some of these big records were 4 or 5 years apart. So, but it is amazing looking back, like over the span of 10 or 15 years, how many great, huge bands came from there.
It's funny. I actually got to see Offspring and Sublime at the same concert at Irvine once, and everyone said this is like a local gig for those guys.
But AJ and I and Kevin, we grew up going to Irvine Meadows, and as kids, as fans, up in the lawn section, just trying to sneak down an extra level or two to get closer to the band. And then, we were so fortunate to end up getting to play there a few times. And we were, standing on the stage looking out going, we used to be you out there. Like that was a wild time to be able to play that venue. Now someone's living in a condo, where the stage used to be.
Incredible to be that person, knowing you're just all the legendary concerts that came through, and you're like, maybe it's got this cool aura. That's where we should be writing.
It actually might have some good creativity in that era. I mean, I just love how it had a turntable stage as well. So, there was no stopping any bands. Like literally the turntable would spin around and the next band was on there ready to go. And there aren't many of those venues around the world. So that was just exciting for me to check it out. So what was the moment where you really felt like, you know what, music might actually work out for us? Was it when you played a certain venue, or was it when you got airplay, or making a movie soundtrack? I mean, what was it?
Man, I guess when it got to a point where you're actually paying bills and you're you have a place to live and it's not with your parents. And once you realize that there's checks rolling in, I guess, consider it making a living and kind of have made it at that point. But I think overall getting that feeling like, oh man, we've arrived somewhere a place that we've been working for our entire lives to get to would probably be the first time you hear your song on the radio. I mean, for us, it was. And, being Orange County natives and hearing our song on K-Rock for the first time was a very that thing you do moment. We all just, lost our minds. It was just such an incredible feeling. So that was a great, for us, a great feat that we had been working towards.
It was kind of a series of things when, first it was hearing your song on the radio, then it was getting offered a tour with a big band, and then it was getting on TRL for the first time, and then it was
MTV was
your first tour bus, and then it was like all these things over the course of a couple of months, and in a way you're almost too busy and too caught up in it to stop and go like, hey guys, check it out, like we're doing it. But you do sort of look back after a few months and go, wow, we're doing it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, it's just momentum, isn't it? And I remember reading that one iconic venue in LA really had a big impact on you. That was the Troubadour, because I think you played there really early. But then it was the next gig you played there when My Own Worst Enemy broke, and you had a huge crowd, and that would have had a big impact on you as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. As kids, as really young kids, when we first started out, those were the only venues we would play because they were all ages venues up in Hollywood. So the Troubadour, the Roxy, the Whiskey, because all those venues were where we always played. And so our first gigs, even my first gig, I was the drummer, and that gig was at the Troubadour. And then it just, that was where we lived, man. We drove from Orange County to Hollywood, and that was where we passed out flyers, and we'd bring party buses full of Orange County friends up to those shows, and then we started selling out all those venues, and that was sort of the beginning of our sort of journey of like becoming a, I don't know, we were a big local band at the time, but like breaking through that barrier was tough.
Yeah, well, I remember hearing you guys for the first time listening to a pop station in New York. It was Z100. I mean, that was huge.
Yeah, man.
And I remember hearing the riff, it was that's such a part of a soundtrack now of everyone's lives of that era. And do you sit back sometimes and go, wow, that was really cool?
Daily, it blows my mind that it's had the impact it's had.
That was an era when, the fact that Z100 in New York was playing it, but Kiss FM in LA wasn't playing it because it was too rock for pop. And, and then a year later, I like to think that we helped knock on the door, or at least kick it in a little bit for bands like Blink-182 and bands that crossed over into pop radio and had huge hits. It took a couple of crossover bands like Lit to sort of at least bang on the door a little bit. And then even though they didn't let us in, then they let the next one in because they're like, all right, well, maybe there's something to this rock thing after all. Let's give these kids a chance, but.
Oh, that's the thing. I mean, it was a big wave of crossover after that. Like, yeah, you even Good Charlotte and bands like that, they went from being sort of indie to being just straight up pop. And right. Yeah, you're well and truly part of that.
And then bands like Linkin Park, who sounded actually very heavy, and that was pop radio too. So those guys crossed over into pop, and then it sort of became what pop radio was when we were growing up as young kids. Is it was just the most popular songs in the nation, or where for whatever station is playing it. It could have been rock, it could have been country. It was like back when we were kids, it was like Dolly Parton, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, like all these random artists that just had these really big songs at the time, and they were the top 40 bands.
And how was COVID for you guys? Because, you must have obviously been working on this album well and truly all through that. And it probably was hard to get together with other band members, bringing in outsiders like session musicians or whatever you want to do. And also a lot of bands have done is they've done songs all about being miserable during lockdown and the isolation, but you've kept it pretty upbeat. One of those. Yeah, no, that's the thing. You've kept it true. You really have.
We definitely set out to not make a record about being locked down and being political. Not only was everybody locked down, but it was out here in America. It was an election year on top of that, so it was a lot of just crazy stuff going on, and it was a little bit difficult to focus with all the noise going on around us. But in a weird way, we went back to a time when all that mattered was family, friends, the unit, and just spending time with people. of course, the lockdown stuff was only supposed to last a couple weeks. And so everybody partied for like 2, 3, 4 weeks. We finally looked at our watches and said, oh man, we should probably get back to work. But it kind of helped us really focus on, we wanted to go back to a more innocent time, and we wanted to go back to a sound that that people knew us from. And I think in a weird way that lockdown kind of helped us hone in on that a little bit better. And because in a way we went from having these busy schedules and all these things going on, but 25 years ago we didn't. We would just write songs and play our music and drink beers with our bros. And then here we are 25 years later, we're being forced into that in a way, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think it helped us.
It was a crazy lockdown for you compared to us. We still had, the outdoors were able to go and enjoy, but I know, mates in LA who couldn't go surfing, because they were arresting people on the beaches, and it was a proper crazy time. So I'm glad you managed to get the album out. Tastes Like Gold. Is that where did that come from?
It's actually one of the songs on the record. It's a song title, and it's one of the first things we go to when we're looking for a title for the record. Is like we go through all the the track listing and what jumps out at us, what sort of encapsulates this whole feel of this record. And that was just one of them, man. It was one of our favorite tracks on the record, and it just had this cool visual that we can run with. And yeah, man, it was the standout.
Yeah, well, the visual's great. It sort of reminds me of almost like a James Bond kind of thing.
We love the nostalgia stuff. Like A Place in the Sun. We threw it back to the 50s. With the Rat Pack stuff and all the Las Vegas and the kitschy Palm Springs looking designs. And this time around, we really wanted, since we kind of went back to that place with our music, we wanted to go back nostalgic. And we kind of went a little more 70s with this one, and a little bit disco girl, porn. Just flashy. We just like the color scheme and what's not sexy about a girl's mouth anyway.
Exactly. Right.
You can't go wrong.
And you've done a lot of gigs at all different kind of settings. I remember you did like a biker rally, I think a couple of years ago, and like you've just covered it all. You've covered the clubs in Hollywood. You've done massive festivals and biker rallies, and you fit in at all of them pretty much. You're fine.
Yeah, biker rallies are a trip, man. But yeah, we'll play them. It's quite the crew of people, man. When there's people running around naked, getting dragged behind trikes, and people definitely know how to party at those things.
Yeah, back here in Australia, they have the utility vehicles where people grab onto the back back tray. And they get pulled along, and they're kind of like surfing on the dirt until you fall off.
I love that, man.
It is insane. It is insane. We'll have to get you over for one of those. But
hell yeah.
Has the temptation been there to go a little bit more, being in Nashville, a little bit more sort of crossover country than you are? Because when you step out off the plane into Nashville, you live and breathe it almost in a way. It's all around you.
One of the things that brought us to Nashville was country music, and we love country music, and we write it, and we have a lot of friends that are country singers and country bands, and but we've this record really helped us separate that and keep Lit sort of what people expect from Lit, and also what we expect from it now. We have put out some stuff in the past that was more Nashville inspired and leaning. But I think we found a good balance now where we're able to reel it in and focus on what Lit really is. But if we feel like writing a country song, we'll write a country song. And if we want to put it out with us playing it, we'll put it out as the Pop-Off Brothers, or someone else can record it and do it. But, we're big fans of that genre and just and the community. And so it's fun. It's fun to be able to do both.
It's good. It's good to be able to have the freedom to keep your certain songs to different projects and keep Lit true to how the fans would remember it as.
Yeah.
You got to tell me a story about a certain gig you did back in the day. It was the AVN, the Porno Awards, and and it didn't go exactly to plan because they were obviously filming it and they were going to play it back on TV later on.
Well, what part of the night are you referring to?
I think
It was
halfway.
an insane event.
I'm not proud of it, but it's happened twice. It happened once on Jay Leno on the Tonight Show, and then it happened. I just got a little excited, and I was running around and not familiar with the stage setup, and I knocked over all the amps. And right in front of Gene Simmons, he was sitting front row, and some famous porn stars and everything, and we just knocked it over and killed the sound. So we had to reset it up and then start over again. But
Like Seymour Butts was there, and then the front row too. It was really at like the height of porn, I think too. It was the porn.
When we got there, we did the red carpet, and it was during a time where we were doing we'd been to the Grammys, we'd been to the American Music Awards and different award shows, and the red carpet for the AVN Awards was 10 times as long. And there were more people lined up to catch glimpses of their favorite. There were dads with their 4-year-old toddlers on their shoulders, taking pictures of Jenna Jameson as she walked by. And it was a wild, I was like, this is more mainstream than mainstream at this point. And it was just a wild thing to be a part of and to catch a glimpse of, and we got to be friends with some of the girls and some of the people involved, and it was a lot of fun.
In a casino, you walk into one of the smaller bars or restaurants, and I kid you not, there literally be cameras pulled out. This is when they're still filming them on. I guess they still do that probably with the big shoulder cams, and girls up on a high top table, just going at it, and they're filming a porno right in front of the bartenders and us walking in. We get a cocktail and we're watching them just shoot a porno right in front of us. It was that kind of stuff going on all over Vegas. It was just unreal. Do they still have? I think they still have those awards, right?
I said the height of porn. It just won't be the same budget, probably, but that's one. That's one of the great stories. And you had Pam Anderson do your clip as well in 2000. Quick segue from that too. When you got the phone call saying, "Hey, we got her," was that a big thing? Well,
it was more her telling us personally because we were at the time we were part of one of her TV show VIP. So we were acting every day with her for about a week. Yeah. So that's kind of how that all started. And, she got pitched the idea to be in the video, and it would be awesome if you would be in this video where it's, 50-foot woman eats the band, whatever. And she agreed to it. And she, came to the show set the next day. Hey, I'm going to be in your guys' video. It's so awesome. But she's awesome. She was so great. She just brought her kids to the shoot, and she was there for about 14 hours. Didn't charge us to be in our video. Just wanted to be in it. And just a killer, salty the earth lady.
And she didn't even charge you. That's amazing. I mean, look, these days, I was watching an episode of The Hills a few months ago, and her son is now old enough to be, in that TV show as well. And she makes a couple of cameo appearances. Yeah. Time has flown.
That kid was, I don't know how old he was at the time, but he had to come with her to the shoot because, they couldn't stay home alone. They were just little kids. I mean, I'm sure she's got a nanny, but
yeah, exactly. They
got the rock video shoot.
That's so cool. Over there where you are now, it's after 7:00. Jeremy, you got a glass of wine. AJ, you probably got something hidden away. What is in? Oh, what do you got? What are you drinking there?
Yeah, it's a glass of wine too.
Okay, excellent. So, what is in the rider for lit now, and what was it back in the day when you broke?
Not a lot's changed. We have some red wine in there. We've got a bottle of Jägermeister still on there for our pre-show ritual shot. And it's just, a few beers and some cocktail fixings like vodka and some Sprite Zero or Diet 7-Up or whatever. And then it's just the basic stuff, boring lunch meat, chips and, chewing gum, and somebody sneaks in some weird stuff. You'll all of a sudden you'll just see some random there's 5 candy bars of some sort. I wonder who put that in the rider. Or the crew guys will put different energy drinks and stuff on there. But it's nothing crazy. We found out early on that if you get too crazy on a rider, then they'll take the liberty to adjust it whichever way they think it should go. So if you ask for something crazy, then you may not get the bottle of Jägermeister. So we kind of had to keep it real and let them know, like, hey, this is not open for interpretation or negotiation. Just make sure it's there.
And also, you know, in the end, you're paying for it anyway, because a lot of the bands don't realize that at the beginning, and they do a tour, and then you see the bill at the end of the tour, and it's like, oh my God, we spent that on that? Really? And you probably learn that pretty quickly.
Touring's expensive, man. Yeah, that needs the overhead just to, you know, from gas in the tour bus to, you know, all that little stuff, man. It adds
Well, a
up.
lot of times too, you know, on the road, it's not so much about the cost of what we know how much the stuff costs that we need back there. It's that how else are we going to get it? You know, it's not like we have a car or a motorcycle where you just like go to the market and pick it up. You're at the mercy of like, you're kind of stuck back there. So you're like,
it's more the convenience of it being your backstage is your living room every day.
And look, sometimes as well, it's you got to be strategic. You know, you and when you're starting off, you want to have a bottle of spirits usually, because you're going to take that bottle anyway, whether you finish drinking it or not. So you can take that on the tour bus, and that'll keep you going for another 24 hours or 2 hours, depending. But did you ever have that struggle at any point where you had to actually tell yourself, I can't have pre-show drinks anymore? Because some bands, you know, it's all part of the party, and then eventually there's a wake-up call where you go, you know what?
Definitely, man. There's phases.
The longer you're in this business and the more each guy individually and collectively as a group, but you figure out like what your regimen is, you know, hopefully bands figure it out, you know, at some point, like what your limitations are, what time, you know, how much sleep you need, what kind of vitamins you need to take or food you need to eat, you know, to be able to, at the end of the day, we're out there. We enjoy partying and we enjoy meeting people, but at the end of the day, we're out there to do the show, and the show has to be 100%. Otherwise nobody wins. And so whatever it takes to do the 100% thing is what we have to do, you know?
You had some really, really nice sort of cameos over the years with different sort of vocalists. The top of the pile is Steve Tyler, though. I was reading about this where you somehow got him to sing vocal on one of your songs. How did that come about? Is it all about networking and just bumping into people and saying, hey, while you got a chance, just asking them, hey, do you want to do a song with us?
I mean, that one pretty much was, yeah. It happened just kind of by accident. We didn't expect to see Steven Tyler that day in the recording studio. Glenn Ballard was producing our song Over My Head, and he was running really late. We had I think 1 day off. We had a crazy touring schedule, and we needed to track vocals. So we had this studio in Boston booked, and he showed up really late, and we were like, damn, where is he at? Like, it's our day off. We got to get this done. And when he showed up, he walked in with Tyler, and we were just like, holy shit. And just starstruck, you know, and stoked that he was there. And it was probably getting close to dinner time, and we ordered some delivery. And I just remember we all sat around at this like dining table together and ate dinner with Steven Tyler. And when he got up to use the restroom, and I asked Glenn Ballard if it would be, you know, out of line or somehow disrespectful to ask him if he wanted to sing on our record, sing harmonies or backgrounds, whatever. And he goes, oh man, it just got to ask him. He's pretty cool. He comes back from the bathroom, and I just had to get my nerve up and just straight up asked him. He felt like singing on our track, and he said, yeah, man, what is it? Let's go take a listen. Went over to this, you know, little ghetto blaster and listened to the song, and he started kind of like humming little melodies, and it was just that easy, man. And just got to ask, you know, sometimes, and just push it.
What a moment. What a moment. I mean, that's,
oh my God, man. Still one of like the highlights of my life.
And another reason why it's so good to be in those great music cities like, you know, LA or Nashville, where you just never know who you're going to bump into in the studio. And all the great collabs over the years have happened that way. You know, you think about, you know, Queen and David Bowie. They've all been accidents that somehow give you a masterpiece.
That was a hell of a day.
Now, it's great having you back, by the way, because I know you've had some breaks, you know, over the years, and you know, you've had tragedy as well in the band, and you've come back. Does that make it more special when you do put out another album?
Yeah. You know, I think anytime a group, a family, which, you know, a band is a family, anytime your family goes through hardship, you know, and then you come out on the other side and prevailing, you know, it's a celebration. It's a high five moment, you know. the things that have happened to us over the years is nothing unique to most families in the world, right? You know, we've lost loved ones, and we've had setbacks, and we've had things happen, and it's all part of life. And I think that's, you know, the biggest part of all of our lives is music. And I think that's the thing that ties us all together. So our fans all around the world can relate to the things that we've been through because they've been through it too. And that's what kind of keeps us all chugging along. So I think it's a good feeling to be able to come out of the dark into the light and be able to like rock and roll and have a good time again. It's awesome.
Especially what we've been through in the last couple of years. It's so good having you back. So the 7th album is out in June. Mouth Shut is out now, and you guys are on tour as well. And look, we can't wait to get you back to Australia. But it's so good to have you back on the road as well. It's great for you. It's great for the crew. It's great for the fans, and just enjoy it once again. So AJ and Jeremy, great to speak to you both.
Likewise, man, dude.
Thank you, brother.
We got to get back to Australia, man. We missed it. It's been way too long. So that's definitely gonna put it back up on the bucket list. Getting back there.
We talked about for sure. So put in a good work for us, will you?
Yeah, let's do it.
How fun were they? AJ and Jeremy from the band Lip. Make sure to check out their 7th album, Tastes Like Gold. And feel free to go on YouTube and you can check out them performing at the Porno Awards back many, many years ago. Follow The Rider Pod on Instagram. And next week on the podcast, an artist who comes from a great pedigree. He comes from a very important musical family for Australia. He's been through tragedy. He's had the highs and the lows over the last 2 years. Next week, he opens up about growing up with celebrities all around him, and his brand new song is out as well. We'll catch you then. The Rider with Becko next week.